So, today I want to talk about the ceasefire because I have been getting a lot of questions about this. A lot of people are very excited. They are saying, Professor Jong, the war is over. Trump announced a peace deal. Iran is negotiating in Pakistan. Maybe you were wrong. Maybe America is going to win after all. And my answer is no. The ceasefire is a lie. The war never stopped. And today I want to explain exactly why, using our framework of game theory, historical patterns, and the structure of how power actually works to show you what is really happening behind the scenes. Because what you see on the news is not what is actually happening. So let us begin. First, let me describe what Trump actually announced, because when you hear the details, you will understand immediately why something is wrong here. Trump said there will be a 2-week pause. America and Iran will meet in Pakistan to negotiate a long-term ceasefire. And here is the important part. He said he would use Iran's 10-point plan as the framework for the peace talks. Now, what is in this 10-point plan? Let me go through it, because it is very revealing. Point 1, the United States will guarantee never to attack Iran again. Point 2, Iran will have complete control over the Strait of Hormuz. Point 3, Iran can choose to enrich uranium for its nuclear program. Point 4, all sanctions on Iran will be removed. All of them, including secondary sanctions against foreign companies that do business with Iran, including all UN Security Council resolutions against Iran, including all International Atomic Energy Agency resolutions. Point 5, compensation and reparations for all the damage that the United States and Israel did to Iran. Point 6, withdrawal of all U.S. combat forces from the Middle East. Point 7, and this is the most important one. The United States will also agree to end hostilities against all of Iran's allies, including Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen. So let me ask you a simple question. If you walked into a shop and wanted to buy something for $100 and you said, I will pay $1,000, and the shop owner said, yes, fine, deal, what would you think? You would think something is very wrong. Nobody accepts a deal that good unless they are not serious about the deal, unless they are planning something else entirely. That is exactly what is happening here. Trump is using Iran's own maximum demands as the starting point for negotiations. What does that tell you? It tells you Trump is not serious about this peace deal. This is theater. This is a distraction. The question is, what is it distracting us from? The answer becomes clear when you look at what is happening on the ground at the same time Trump is announcing this ceasefire. The USS George Bush, a full aircraft carrier, is being sent to the Middle East right now during the ceasefire. More American ground troops are moving into the region. More planes, more artillery, more tanks. The military buildup is accelerating, not stopping. So if this is really a peace deal, why is America sending more forces to the region? Why is the military buildup continuing? The answer is obvious. America is buying time. It is using the ceasefire to get its forces into position. Then, once everything is ready, the war will resume, most likely with a provocation from Israel that gives America the excuse it needs to escalate. That is reason number 1 why the ceasefire is a lie. America is using it as cover for military preparation. Now let me give you reason number 2, which is more interesting. This is about how Iran has actually structured its military. Because even if Iran wanted to honor this ceasefire, it would be almost impossible for the Iranian leadership to actually enforce it on the battlefield. Iran is using something called the mosaic defense. Let me explain what this means, because it is a brilliant strategy and most people do not understand it. Iran has 31 provinces, and what they have done is turn each province into its own independent military cell. Each cell has its own strategy, its own weapons, its own command structure. They do not need orders from Tehran to fight. They operate independently. Think of it like a dead man's switch, a mechanism that activates automatically if the person controlling it is killed or incapacitated. So even if America kills the Ayatollah, even if America destroys the entire central leadership of Iran, these 31 cells keep fighting automatically because they do not need orders. They have already been told, fight until we win or fight until we are destroyed. Now think about what this means for a ceasefire. If Iran's political leadership in Tehran says, okay, we have agreed to a ceasefire, They then have to go and tell 31 independent military cells spread across the entire country to stop fighting. These cells are IRGC commanders and soldiers who have been fighting for months, who do not trust the Americans or the Israelis. They are not going to obey a ceasefire order just because some politicians in Tehran said so. They will say, no, we do not trust this, we keep fighting. That means for Iran to actually implement a ceasefire, the political leadership would have to physically force its own military to stop, which would essentially be a civil war within Iran, the government fighting its own army to make them put down their weapons. That is not going to happen. The Mosaic Defense was designed specifically so that this cannot happen. It was designed so that the war cannot be stopped by killing the leadership or by making a political deal. The only two ways this war ends under the Mosaic Defense are, 1, Iran is completely destroyed, or 2, America is defeated and leaves. There is no middle ground. There is no ceasefire that works. This is genius because it means America cannot win by just killing leaders or bombing Tehran. America cannot win by making deals. The only way America wins is total destruction of Iran, and America does not have the political will, the manufacturing capacity, or the number of soldiers to do that. So America is trapped. Now let me give you reason number 3, the most revealing one, because it shows that even the people signing this deal do not believe in it. The ink was barely dry on this ceasefire announcement when Israel launched more than 100 strikes across Lebanon in 10 minutes. More than 250 people killed in 10 minutes during a ceasefire. Iran's position was always that this peace deal includes its allies, that Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen are part of the agreement. Iran cannot sign a deal that leaves its allies to be destroyed. That is a fundamental condition. But after Israel bombed Lebanon, what did America say? J.D. Vance, the vice president, came out and said, oh, this is a legitimate misunderstanding. We thought Hezbollah was not part of the deal. The Iranians thought it was a misunderstanding. So you announce a major ceasefire that is supposed to end a war, and you did not even agree on who is covered by the ceasefire. Does that sound like a serious peace negotiation to you? Of course not, because it is not serious. Israel bombed Lebanon immediately to send Iran a message. We are going to keep destroying your allies no matter what deal you sign. And America stood back and called it a misunderstanding. This tells you everything. The ceasefire is not designed to work. It is designed to create a situation where Iran breaks the ceasefire because it has to defend Hezbollah, and then America can say, well, Iran broke the deal. Now we resume the war, and it is their fault. It is a trap used before, just like with the JCPOA nuclear deal, which Trump tore up, just like during the first 12-day war when America was secretly plotting against Iran while pretending to negotiate. The pattern is always the same. Make a deal, break the deal, blame Iran, escalate. Now I want to go deeper because the more important question is not just whether the ceasefire is real. The answer is clearly no. But why? What is the actual purpose of this theater? What is really going on? To answer that, we need to go back to the idea that political systems can lose control over wars. I think this is happening right now on both sides. Think about it this way. When America started this war, there was a plan. Bomb Iran, destroy its nuclear program, decapitate the leadership, force a surrender. That was the plan. But wars never go according to plan. Iran fought back harder than expected. The Strait of Hormuz closed. The global economy started to feel the pressure. Oil prices went up. American bases got hit. An aircraft carrier had to leave. The war spiraled. Now you have two groups inside the American government who want completely different things. The military, the Pentagon, Secretary Hegseth want to escalate. They want to send ground troops, take the Strait of Hormuz, finish the job. Then you have Trump, who is watching the stock market and his approval ratings, who understands that a ground invasion of Iran is political suicide. Trump wants an exit. Trump wants to look like a winner without actually winning. So what you get is a confused ceasefire, not a real ceasefire. A ceasefire that exists only in Trump's press releases while the military continues doing what the military does. On Iran's side, you have a similar problem. The political leadership, the people who would negotiate in Pakistan, understand that this war is causing enormous economic damage, not just to the world economy, but to Iran itself. Cities are being bombed. Infrastructure is being destroyed. The Iranian economy is under enormous strain. The political leadership knows that if this war drags on for years, even Iran will break eventually. But the military, the IRGC commanders in those 31 provinces are not going to stop. They believe they are winning. They believe the Americans are running out of interceptors, running out of political will, running out of money. Why would they stop now when they are winning? So what you have is a split, a schism between the political leadership of Iran that wants to negotiate and the military leadership that wants to keep fighting. This fissure is dangerous because it means Iran is no longer operating as one coherent unit. Over time, as this split deepens, Iran will become less effective on the battlefield, not because America is winning, but because Iran is becoming divided against itself. Now, I want to talk about Trump because a lot of people ask me, is Trump stupid? Is he a genius? Is he playing four-dimensional chess? Is he just an old man who does not know what he is doing? My answer is yes to all of them. Let me explain. Trump is not a military genius. He is not a geopolitical genius. He does not understand the Mosaic defense. He does not understand the Strait of Hormuz. He does not understand game theory. When he says things like, we will negotiate with bombs, or I am going to pick the next Iranian leader, he genuinely believes these things will work. He is not pretending. He is just wrong. But Trump is a genius at one specific thing, unpredictability. And unpredictability is extremely powerful as a political tool. First, unpredictability is paralyzing. When you do not know what Trump is going to do next, bomb Iran today, announce a ceasefire tomorrow, send an aircraft carrier the day after, you cannot build a coherent strategy against him. You are always reacting, always off balance. Iran is dealing with this. Europe is dealing with this. Even Trump's own advisors are dealing with this. Second, unpredictability is distracting. When Trump is making dramatic announcements every single day, all your attention is on Trump. You are watching Trump, talking about Trump, reacting to Trump, and you miss what is happening behind the scenes. While everyone is focused on the ceasefire announcement, nobody is talking about the USS George Bush sailing toward the Persian Gulf. The stage show distracts you from the backstage action. Third, unpredictability gives you flexibility. Trump is not committed to any strategy. He can change course at any time without losing face because he never committed to anything in the first place. He can call something a victory even when it is clearly a defeat, and his base will believe him. So yes, Trump is a clown, but there is a method to the madness. The ceasefire announcement is not a mistake. It is not stupidity. It is Trump doing what Trump does best, creating noise, confusion, and cover while the real moves happen in the background. Now I want to talk about the global economy because this is where the ceasefire lie becomes most dangerous. Not for Iran, but for everyone. The moment Trump announced the ceasefire, oil prices dropped, stock markets recovered, there was relief. Oh, the war is pausing. The Strait of Hormuz might reopen. Energy supplies will normalize. That relief was the point. The ceasefire was announced not because there was a real deal, but because the markets were panicking and Trump needed to stop the bleeding. But here's the reality. The Strait of Hormuz is still effectively controlled by Iran. The energy shortages are not going away. The fertilizer shortages are not going away. The petrochemical shortages are not going away. The ships that were diverted weeks ago are still being diverted. The supply chains that were disrupted are still disrupted. The price relief from the ceasefire announcement will last maybe 2 weeks. Then markets will realize that nothing has actually changed on the ground, and prices will go back up. The global economic pressure will intensify again. This is Iran's actual strategy. Remember, Iran is not trying to defeat America in a single battle. Iran is trying to make the cost of this war economically and politically unsustainable. Every week the war continues, the economic damage deepens. Every week the political will in America weakens. Every week the global pressure on Trump to find a real exit increases. Iran is not in a hurry. Time is on Iran's side. A fake ceasefire that buys America 2 weeks of market relief does not change that equation at all. So let me put all of this together to give you the complete picture of what is actually happening. Trump announces a ceasefire for 3 reasons: to calm the markets, to buy time for military positioning, and to create a trap where Iran breaks the ceasefire by defending Hezbollah, giving America the excuse to escalate. Israel immediately bombs Lebanon because Israel does not want a ceasefire. Israel wants to drag America deeper into this war. Israel wants America committed to destroying Iran completely. A partial ceasefire that leaves Iran intact and in control of the Strait of Hormuz is a disaster for Israel's long-term strategy. So Israel breaks the ceasefire immediately, deliberately, to make sure it does not hold. Iran faces a choice: honor the ceasefire and abandon Hezbollah, which is politically impossible and which Iran's military will refuse to do, or defend Hezbollah and be blamed for breaking the ceasefire. It is a trap with no good exit. The Mosaic defense means that even if Iran's political leadership wanted to take the ceasefire deal, the military would not stop fighting. So the war continues regardless of what happens in Pakistan. Through all of this, the global economy continues to bleed. The oil shortage deepens. The fertilizer crisis worsens. The pressure builds. Eventually, not today, not next week, but eventually, that economic pressure will force a real reckoning, not a fake ceasefire, a real settlement on Iran's terms, because Iran is the one with escalation dominance, time on its side, and a military that will not stop until the war is won. Now, I want to end with something very important, going back to our framework for understanding how the world works. We have talked before about how power operates through layers: the empire, the muscle, the finance, the game masters, the global economy, and the narrative, the media, the culture, the stories that make people believe the system is fair. Right now, the ceasefire is a narrative move. It is the system trying to tell a story. The war is pausing. Peace is possible. Everything is under control because the system needs people to believe that story in order to keep functioning. When oil goes to $150 or $200 a barrel, when food becomes scarce, when ordinary people start to feel real economic pain, the narrative breaks down. People stop believing the story. When they stop believing the story, the entire system comes under threat. This is what Iran understands. This is why Iran's strategy of targeting the global economy, controlling the Strait of Hormuz, threatening GCC infrastructure, forcing oil prices up is so powerful. It does not just hurt America militarily. It destroys the narrative. It makes ordinary people around the world, including ordinary Americans, question whether this war is worth it. No ceasefire announcement, no matter how dramatic, no matter how many cameras are pointed at it, changes the underlying reality. The reality is that the war is continuing. The Mosaic defense is still active. Iran's underground missile bases are still operational. The strait is still effectively closed. The economic pressure is still building. The ceasefire is a lie, not because I say so, but because the structure of this conflict makes a real ceasefire impossible right now. Both sides have locked themselves into positions from which they cannot easily exit. America cannot accept Iran's 10-point plan because it is a complete surrender. Iran cannot abandon its allies or its military because the Mosaic defense will not allow it. Israel will not allow a peace that leaves Iran intact. So where does this go? The war continues. The economic pressure builds. The political will in America erodes further. Eventually, this is my prediction based on structural analysis. America will be forced to find an exit, not on its terms, but on Iran's terms, because that is where the game theory points. That is what history shows us happens when an empire overextends into a war it cannot win. The ceasefire is theater. The war never stopped. Until the underlying structural realities change, it will not stop. So that is my analysis for today. I want you to think about this framework, question it, ask yourself whether the evidence supports what I am saying, because that is what predictive history is about. Not accepting my word or anyone's word, but thinking for yourself, using evidence, history, and game theory. The truth is not always in front of you. Sometimes you have to be willing to look behind the curtain.